Hello, everybody. Welcome to everybody around the world. It's tea time. It's Monday, the 14th of November, 2022. And the topic of today's conversation is what's making our children sick? See this book? Can you see that? That's my book. You guys need to be getting that book. We have the author and the very brilliant Dr. Michelle Perro on the show today to talk about that. And she does have a new book coming out with the solution. So we will talk about it. So we'll spend the first half of the show talking about what Dr. Perro thinks is making our children sick and see what we all think of that. But first of all, let's go straight to you, Dr. Michelle Perro, and talk about who you are. Give us a little bit more background and information on you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm just thrilled to be here with you gals. So my background in pediatrics, I've been doing it for a bit, maybe close to 40 years, maybe over 40 years. And I've started in pediatric emergency medicine, which I adored, and then transitioned to homeopathy and more integrative approaches about 29 years ago when my own son had challenges. And I literally serendipitously stumbled into an MD homeopath who I adored and worked for much later. But when I learned about GMOs and pesticides in 2005, 2006, my work after light bulbs and Broadway moments again catapulted into understanding how the rise of chronic disease that I was seeing in my practice correlated to the shift in foods to GMOs and pesticides. Fast forward, environmental toxicants and the relationship of the slew of chemical inputs from oral to breathing to injectables that our children now face is where I stand today. So that's what I'm focusing on now.
This is just brilliant. And I'm going to start off with this question. So we all know about the vaccines. We all know the vaccinated kids are sicker than the unvaccinated. We all know that. But what we're seeing going up sharply is that the vaccine-free or the unvaccinated, whatever you want to call these babies, children, are now becoming sick. And so there's something else that's causing this. And so many of our doctors speaking out about GMO, the food, glyphosate. I'd like to throw that over to you. And let's look at so take vaccines out for a second, because our viewers know about vaccines. Let's look at what else could be causing our children to get sick.
So what I focus on is the relationship between food, GMOs, and pesticides, which all our kids are eating because they're ubiquitous in our environment now. Since we introduced them in 1996, I think they're in everything. They've cross-contaminated everything that's organic. The regulatory agencies have been captured, so how much they're actually doing is unclear. If anything, we could go down that rabbit hole. So we don't have regulatory agencies. We have cross-contamination of organics, and we have kids eating the worst foods ever and without nutrients. Loaded GMOs, people have to understand, are not benign, and they affect immune function, reproductive function, organ function. Only 3 human studies on GMOs, and we're eating them for 25 years. And with the rise in weed resistance, we've had to use more toxic pesticides. Those include herbicides, fungicides, and insecticides, glyphosate-based, which is Roundup, and many others. 800 glyphosate-based herbicides. So there are more toxins in the food. So when moms and dads are exposed to those toxins, they are passed through to the baby vaginally. The microbiome is passed on, and that sets up immune function for the baby. So they also inherited whatever parents were exposed to. So that's the very brief overview of part of the big problem and what I focus on. Not the only problem, but a big problem.
Sorry, I know it's not my turn, girls. We've just discussed that in the chat, but I just want to say, so I think it's really important. So you've got 2 parents that are vaccinated, for example, and maybe one's not eating terribly well. So they can pass on whatever that is to this unvaccinated pure baby. So great that you're not vaccinated and you're going to feed organic, but it's starting off life. Is that what you're saying, with a load of stuff coming from mummy and daddy?
Indeed, that is what I'm saying, Polly. And what mom and dad have to do, even before they think about baby making, is do a prenatal detox. And no one really teaches that. Yes, in our integrative world, we speak about that. People have heard that. But whether they're doing that because many women's like, oh, gosh, I'm pregnant. It's more of that. And we have to kind of move away from that. although fertility now is plummeting, and we can talk about that too, and into cleaning up the internal milieu before we think about making babies. And it takes about 6 months to clean this up. And I'm not just talking about mom. I'm talking about mom, dad, the family dog. The whole thing has to be cleaned up before we make babies, because not only do we pass on the microbes that set up the baby's immune function, but we also pass on epigenetics. And those are these little proteins sitting on the genes, and whatever mom and dad are exposed to can change those formulations and then influence what genes are turned on and off. And environmental toxicants affect these little molecules, and we call it epigenes, and how genes are telling the body what to make. So this is very important. And environmental toxins and toxicants are organic, toxicants are inorganic, change the baby's expression and who they are. That's why you can have 5 children. They all look differently. Same genetic profiles, but they all look different. Depends on what mom and dad were exposed to.
That's fascinating. Holy moly. Now, you've mentioned the term e-waste, and I think I get what that is. But what does that all entail outside of your 6 principles, like the clean water, the food, the air, no medical experimentation, 5G, and you mentioned the collection of e-waste. What does that entail?
So, I'm here in the US, and here in the US, the children do not collect the waste from computers, cell phones, TVs. Those materials are extremely toxic. In other countries, kids and women scavenge these dump sites for these wastes, and then harvest these very precious metals, and without any protection. Talk about no PPE. There would be an opportunity for giving really PPE. And they are exposed to mercury, lead, cadmium, these horrific metals. Both women and children are doing it. Very few countries are protecting young kids and women from this toxic overload, which is relatively new. And I have pictures of grave sites of massive computers and phones, and oh my gosh, it's awful. A few countries, Brazil has one, are regulating it now, but certainly not enough. So the kids are not only born pre-polluted, they're heavy metal intoxicated, which causes profound demise, particularly their neurologic function.
That is so sad, and something that we don't even consider, and all we ever hear from anybody that matters is supposed to be that it's all safe and it's fine and don't worry, we've got you. And it's infuriating. So I'm here in Texas. It's cold flu season over here. So when I saw that we're interviewing the woman that's going to tell me what's making my kids sick, I'm thinking, oh no, yeah, please tell me, because I've tried. I've opened my eyes about vaccines. So we're done with that. We did start eating organic. We met with a doctor who's helping us get our guts right. And still we got the flu. So here we are with a virus that turns into, sinus congestion, which turns into an ear infection, which turned into a perforated eardrum. And I'm trying garlic oil, and I'm trying belladonna, and I'm trying these things to help make it better. I guess, how can I prevent or make those things easier? And is there an alternative to antibiotics for something simple like an ear infection?
Absolutely. So we have to remember pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID, that children get a lot of viral infections, and that's the idea. And these viral infections train their immune systems, and it's actually immune training, that their innate systems, there are two aspects of your immune system. There's the innate, the kind that is involved with COVID. We don't have to go there. And your adaptive, that adapts to each infection that you're exposed to. So we need to be exposed to a variety of viruses. That's normal childhood, which makes us robust adults, healthy adults. However, be clear, since we've done the rollout of all these chemicals, we have in you guys now more than 80,000 chemicals. The majority of them, I think 75,000 of them unregulated. So we are more exposed. Young people like you, Sarah, are more toxic than we old dogs. Not old, just experienced. We older folks. And so you guys are not as robust because we've seen a decline in health. A lot of it has to do with the fact that even organic food, the nutrient density is down. So although it's organic and they're not using chemical inputs, it doesn't have enough nutrients to run biologic functions. And the way you can tell that is by some simple blood work. So we have to boost our children's nutrition. And I'm actually thinking that these days, many kids need multivitamins on top of an organic diet when they're sick all the time. Boost them with various herbs during cold and flu season, like elderberry, yummy. Use the homeopathy like you're doing. That's what we have to do. And also look and make sure that your home is a healthy home. It doesn't have biotoxins in it. A lot of homes have mold and other things where our immune systems can't handle it. So we have to sort of kind of re-regulate that aspect and increase the nutrient density. And what I recommend for families, I'll get to solutions right away, is loading up those smoothie drinks. You can put a lot in a smoothie in a small kid that they cannot tolerate. You could add greens, a lot of greens and fruits. And I don't like using supplements if we don't focus on food. Food first. My goal is not to bankrupt families buying hundreds of dollars of supplements when they're not buying organic. So those are some of the things. And of course, I tell folks, please make sure your home is breathing. It's not so airtight. And when possible, air filters if you can. And make sure, I know a lot of people who never change the air filters in their heaters in their homes. Those filters have to be changed once or twice a year, depending where you live. So we have to do a better job. The same thing with water filters. These days, I'm telling most families to use at least a carbon-based water filter. People say, I have one in my refrigerator. I said, when's the last time you changed a filter in your refrigerator? They said, you have to change it? So, okay. So there are things that we can do to boost immunity. And I think COVID put a long kind of pause on kids developing robust immunity, by the way, because they weren't exposed.
It's interesting you mentioned the filters, because in this household, sometimes our cue to change our filters is because we start experiencing other symptoms. And then it reminds us we need to change our filters. But okay, so my question is in relation to organic food. You had mentioned that organic food, that there's toxins. I've long had a suspicion, and I've talked to my husband about it. I don't think it's the same. I've been eating organic food since it even became kind of people caught up to it. So could you speak a little bit more about that? And, for me, it's concerning. I still think it's best, of course, than the overload of toxins. But my goodness, like what is one to do, and where are these toxins coming from?
Certainly.
Is it intentional?
Oh dear, we can go down that rabbit hole, the intentional toxins. So I say the word chemtrails. I think we have to change language, because there's certain words in our language lexicon now that are just too charged, like chemtrails. I think the vaccine word has to go. We have to find a new word for vaccines too. People hear it and they're like, so we need new language. But I'd say there are a lot of heavy metals in the environment. It's in our water, it's in our food. Let's talk about that. So going to farmers markets is the way, but you got to know your farmer, making sure they're, authentic, legitimate. They're really using organic farming methods. So that's one thing, because you can eat organic, but it's nutritionally deplete. Some farms have organic soil, but it has no nutrition in it. Soil is the key. Robust soil filled with humic and fulvic acid and microbes. Soil should be alive, and it is very synonymous with our gut. So farmers markets are not in every community. And in cold climates, they go away in the wintertime, right? So we don't have farmers markets. So then we shift to organic. Costco here in the US is one of the largest buyers of organics. Now, I have no stock in Costco. There are many other, food stores that sell organics, but we're still doing better. How much nutrition is in there? Hard to know in the organics. And because it's lower, kids need more, and there's only so much food a 2-year-old is going to eat. Now, these certifications are also an issue, because whether the USDA is doing a good job surveilling is questionable. They say that 5 to 9% of organic crops are contaminated. But now we are questioning how well the USDA is doing in that little green and white label, USDA or, certified organic. Some people are saying, like Rodale is saying, use Pennsylvania certification. It's called PCO. Maybe we need to devise other organic labels. That's coming. So for now, I'm still saying buy organic. And then we need to supplement with multivitamins on occasion and use the smoothie. So this is where we're getting into trouble. You also have to remember that organic crops are irrigated with non-filtered water. And because in growing areas like California, we're fracking and we're doing other terrible things, pollution from the air is on the crops. The water may be contaminated. So we're not cleaning the water. So a lot of our organic crops can be contaminated from water, rain, air, and these are other sources. So, and then if we get organic crops from other countries, oftentimes at the docks, they're sprayed with methyl bromide or other chemicals. So this is why organic may have some stuff in it, and why your kids' detoxification pathways have to be as open as possible. Get your kids as healthy as you can. So when we do have fewer contaminants, we can handle them. There is something called overload, allostatic overload, that our kids, their detox is not as robust as ours. They have two lines of detoxification, their microbiome and their liver. If you overload the system, the plumbing is clogged, there's no drainage, and it's going to come out. What does that look like? Kids have dark circles, chronically congested, tummy aches, bloating, constipation, seeing all of that, like off the charts. So these are some signs parents can use at home to say, hey, something ain't right. My kid ain't right. Your kid should not be chronically congested.
Would that also lead to like appendicitis and things like that? I mean, is that how you prevent those kinds of things?
Appendicitis is curious. Appendicitis has a lot to do with inflammation around this little vestigial that once was a little organ, but no longer is in humans, that it hangs off your intestine. And there is lymph nodes around that can get inflamed. Infections can do it. And certainly during COVID, we've seen an uptick in appendicitis. And I think it has to do with spike, either spike from the vaccine, spike from vaxxed to unvaxxed, or spike just from the actual infection. There are different ways we can get spiked. So we've seen an uptick. Appendicitis can be related to, I believe, gut upregulation of inflammation. And most of the children I see now have chronic gut inflammation, and we can get into that. Their little guts are inflamed. And if you have a kid with a disorder, a neurocognitive challenge like autism, ADHD and others, 90% of the kids with autism spectrum have gut issues. It's profound. And their moms often have gut issues that they've inherited.
I just want to say a couple of things. So first of all, about the organic food, a couple of things to our viewers out there. Just because a brand is called organics, notice they might spell it a little bit different with an X or something exciting like that. Doesn't mean say it is. It's a brand name. I was recently given a beautiful pecan, whatever you want to call it, oil, all organic in this beautiful box. But when you look at the ingredients, the nuts are not organic, but everything else, the organic sugar or whatever else they put in this gift box. So the only way you really do have to look at the ingredients yourself and then try and figure it out. I'm a big fan of homemade gifts. So you know that I have a great friend, Jessica, who makes us elderberry, syrup. And I know that it's all organic because I trust her. So I highly suggest going and doing it that way. Now, I want to talk about supplements as well. I was warned about, great, take supplements, but the little casing around the side, we don't really know what that's doing to an inside. So I would highly advise you crack it into a teaspoon of whatever you've got to do and try and take it without, because all of that gelatin or whatever that stuff is cannot be good for you. You can correct me on all of this, Dr. Perro, if I'm wrong, but this is just from my experience.
No, you're not wrong. But for kids, what I'll do are liquids. I won't do those gel caps because the gelatin, you're right, can be contaminated. And you want to, and supplements is a whole conversation, because many supplements, the companies are not doing their due justice. You want to look for GMP, a certified organic when possible. A lot of supplement companies can't source everything to be organic, as much organic as possible in the supplements. And the least number of excipients, those are the ingredients that they have to use to stabilize the compounds. So in children, I try to use the powders or liquids, so we don't need the capsules. And if I do use capsules, let's say probiotics, I have the moms and dads. And notice I said moms and dads. This isn't a mom thing, by the way, although I only talk to moms. Open the capsule and put it into the kids' food. So we try to avoid excipients. ultra processed, processed, minimize it to get rid of it. Try and minimize these processed foods, because if they're processed, they have to contain things that stabilize the product so they don't spoil or get overrun with bacteria and other things. So it's not an ideal world. It's not like I say, oh yeah, go take your multivitamins and probiotics, you'll be fine. I have a lot of hesitancy when I say that, because I try to have everything come from food. Food is medicine. And what I've just gave a talk in September on International Day of Corn, la cocina es tu medicina. The kitchen is your medicine. And that's where it must start. So getting families back to cooking is the operative word. And many of us never learned to cook. Like in my house, my mom was the queen of the can. We had an electric can opener and she knew how to use it. So as my 20-something-year-old daughter told me, Mom, YouTube it. So YouTube is good for that. Lots of cooking lessons on YouTube. I'm not, we can talk about YouTube, but cooking, right on. And so parents and children need to get back in the kitchen. All of our stuff, we need to be eating home. 46% of American incomes are spent eating out. And when you see what those restaurants are serving, it's not health food.
No. Now, so that's a very good point. And I highly recommend, if you're homeschooling, to go to Goodwill and pick up some really good cookery books. There's some fantastic books. So your child is reading, measuring out. You don't need to even watch YouTube. I hate YouTube. It's the dark side. So do that as a family thing. I was fortunate enough to be forced to cook at a very young age. All of us did. And it turned out that it's been a good life lesson. That's not what I want to talk about. We're not going to call it a vaccine. We're going to call it the jibbity jab. And so I want to take that jibbity jab out of the equation for this show, because again, our viewers know about that. Macroval talking about sugar. You cannot be more correct. Sugar is definitely the poison. I mean, all those parents that say just a little bit, it's Christmas. No, well, fine. You're actually harming your child. And if you're doing it to yourself, you're self-harming. Am I an angel? No, just made Rocky Road. I love it. But no, sugar is poison. Does that? And here's my question to you, Dr. Perro. Again, taking jibbity jab right out of it. Cleaning products. Please talk about the dangers of these obsessed germ phobia people that are pouring bleach all over their house.
I love your passion about this, because I too get very passionate about it. And when you see my hands start waving, I'm in it. So we've talked about cleaning the internal environment. We have to clean up the external environment. You're right. Just cleaning this, but using a lot of caca out there, and that's a pediatric word, is not good. So what do? We have to stop with the cleaning products. And when you need cleaning products, like I'm kind of picky about my kitchen, it's vinegar and water. White vinegar and water will clean everything. And if you need a little more cleaning power, you could add some baking soda to that. And vitamin C is also great for cleaning, and also hydrogen peroxide. So if you want to up your game, and those are all relatively non-toxic and affordable. So that's what we say, get rid of the cleaning mania. And so I wrote a whole paper, I've given talks on hand sanitizing. The whole COVID craze and the hand sanitizers, oh my God, those things are toxic. Many of them have something called quats in them, quaternarian compounds, and those are cancerous and cause reproductive injury in animal studies, as well as human studies. There are human studies on quats. So all those hand sanitizers, dump them. And I feel so sorry for people in the medical environments. They have to gel before and after every patient, and they're like monitored. So that's a whole nother story. So we have to lower not just the cleaning products, but our personal care. Minimize. I know gals who have a makeup drawer on the side in their bathroom. Like, oh my God, ladies, dump that makeup drawer. And after 6 months, your makeup is all contaminated with microbes anyway. So who needs that stuff? Dump, get rid of it, and don't buy it. We don't need to put that in the landfills. So, but in addition, what's really toxic? Your shoes. People in many countries around the world, they take their shoes off before they come in the home. Here in the US, it's not customary, and your shoes bring in all the toxicants from the outside world. And house dust is one of the most toxic things in your home. So you can really help your child's environment by the shoe removal, air filter if you need it, the dust, minimizing dust. Yes, we do need to clean with dusting. If your child does have respiratory issues, they should not be doing the dusting. Kids should be doing chores, lots of them, but not the dusting. And in other countries, the kids clean the schools, by the way, like in Japan, the kids clean their own bathrooms in school. I thought like American kids are like that, like really, we should be doing that here in the US. And so these are ways that we can personal care, cleaning products, shoes off at the door. The big issue are schools. Our schools have toxic environments, they may have mold, they use cheap products, they're using the most massive toxic stuff since COVID. So schools, so I have so many kids super organic at home in school 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and they come home sick. And it may be the school environment that's making me sick. I'm dealing with those issues literally as we speak.
That's insane. And we know now that during the lockdowns, they were putting up the 5G towers on top of the schools. So I'm sure that's a big indicator as well. My question, I guess, and I know you're going to say food first and foremost, but if we have to take the next best route for a heavy metal detox in children or ourselves, would you say it would be a type of zeolite? Because I know that I can tell you this firsthand. My dad is here with me, and he was on his deathbed, and he gets nothing but organic tube-fed diet, and he's thriving. Food is medicine, 100%. You know, his hair is turning black again. He's getting younger. His age is reversing, but he's trapped in his body. So I love that you said that. Yeah, I want to know about the detox, the heavy metal detox.
So it's rare that I'll do heavy metal detox in anyone until they've heal, decrease the inflammation in their gut and heal their leaky guts. And we do that through nutrition as well. Sometimes in children who have chronic stuff, we have to do more than just nutrition. We have to increase the microbial communities, the number and the heterogeneity of the microbiome. So those microbes are not just for the immune system, they are the first layer of detox. So if someone's microbiome is not doing well, really the person's not going to do well, because you are your microbes, 10-to-1 microbes to human cells. So the way you do that is through your diet. And most folks don't eat enough veggies. Microbes thrive on fruits and veggies, lots of veggies, and one of their favorites is inulin, which is onion. And all the sulfur-containing veggies are super healthy for detoxification. The cruciferous veggies, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, all those veg, onions, garlic, all those veggies, lots of sulfur, and your microbes will thank you. So we have to do that. We have to make the nutrient levels are high enough so that you need those nutrients, particularly minerals, to run enzymes so that all the enzymes are functioning. I'm seeing so many people now, grown-ups and kids, who don't have enough digestive enzymes. And that may be in part due to the fact that they're nutrient deficient and their microbiomes, which run a lot of these, is not up to par. So you want to make sure they're nutrient rich. You know, for example, I see so many children who are zinc and magnesium deficient, and you need zinc to run over 200 chemical reactions in your brain. And then we want to know why their brains don't function, because they're zinc deficient. So, you know, we want to, you know, up their nutrients for all those reasons. Once we do that, you want to clear chronic infections if they have any. And that could be anything from mold to Lyme to COVID, making sure that they're microbially minimized. We all have microbial infections, by the way, and those can trigger a lot of diseases. And then we chase the detox. Zeolite is a problem because the majority of zeolites out there are contaminated with heavy metals. And I am actually going to learn about another product in a few weeks that I'm not going to talk about yet because I haven't vetted it myself. So I say what I give for people to detox are a lot of soluble fibers like pectin fiber, propylmanin. You can use charcoal if it's clean. I like takasumi. It's burnt down charcoal away from foods if you really want to bind up toxins. But remember, these things like charcoal, for example, or bentonite clay, they bind everything. So you have to use it judiciously. And whether they'll bind all the heavy metals is a big conversation. So we can go in, you can have me come back and we could talk about heavy metal detox. So we're detoxing organic matter, the toxins, we're detoxing the toxicants and the heavy metals. Chlorophyll, well, you have to want to make sure the chlorophyll's clean and not contaminated with heavy metals. But don't forget your friend cilantro. Cilantro is one of the most beautiful herbs. There's a Chinese variant as well. I eat it almost every day. I give it to my chickens because I love chickens, and I give them cilantro every day. So their little livers are clean. And you can put that fresh cilantro in everything, in your salsa, your whatever you're eating. So lots of cilantro, and chlorella if it's clean. And there are companies that have a very clean chlorella. You want to look at the spec sheet from the company and make sure they heavy metal tested it. So you can give some of these binders to help clear the heavy metals. So you must lower the toxic load, bind up what's there, and use as many filter systems as you can: air, water, your mouth, your thoughts. You filter your thoughts to clean up the environments. And that's how you do it. And it's a journey. But by changing your diet to a plant-forward diet, we could spend a few hours talking about diets. I'm not pushing any one way of eating, but they should be plant-forward. Plants are your friends.
Well, there you go. I love hearing all that. That's good. No, I like it. And I'm probably going to have to start adding some more onion to our diet. I forgot Stephanie Seneff had told us that exact same thing. And probably, can you put it in a smoothie? It probably won't be so gross. My question, you maybe could. We were talking about food and all these things, but in my opinion, and maybe you could please correct me if I'm wrong, I sometimes like to go back to, what did they do in colonial times? They didn't have a doctor. They had roots, they had herbs, they had things. So they focused on their food. Of course, they went outside, they got their vitamin D, but sleep is so crucial. And especially, I'm talking to my teenagers right now. I hope they're listening. Going to bed at a reasonable time. It's not necessarily sleeping the correct number of hours, but how you get to sleep, how long you stay asleep, and when you fall asleep. Those things are all important too. Is that right?
You're spot on, Sarah. Sleep hygiene. Let's just talk about that for a second, because it really links to the conversation we just had about detox. Because what we now know is that while you're sleeping, your brain's lymphatic system, called the glymphatics, clean out all those toxicants from your brain. Your brain also gets toxic. And so that happens during sleep. And what it actually pulses and clears it out. It sweeps and mops up. It's a brilliant system. But you need a lot of fluids on board. Nice filtered water, little squeeze of lemon juice in there really helps alkalinize your water. But in order to get to sleep, you have to make sure your kids are off their devices, because those devices stimulate dopamine and other neurochemicals, which turn your brain on, not say, hey, sleepy time, it's activate time. So that's one thing, is devices off before they go to bed. My own kids used to sneak them in their room when I wasn't looking, and I'd find like their phones. And I was like on mom CSI, during those early times. Okay, so devices off. Sleep routines, make sure it's a routine that they get to sleep. Make sure they have enough water on board. Most people do not drink enough water. Just clean water. Put a strawberry in there or some lemon squeeze or a sprig of something to make it a little more water friendly, so kids drink it more in a glass bottle, of course, without plastics when you can. And just try and get that routine set. Teens do like to go to bed later and they wake up later, there's no doubt. So we try, some schools have them do a late start, like 8:30. So that's one thing. So sleep is key. Meditations before sleep, trying to do some, relaxation techniques. And then there are your friends, the various herbs and supplements which help promote sleep, like lavender, valerian, Epsom salt baths with a little lavender. They can detox in the hot bath, and then make sure they rinse off, because if they don't rinse off after the Epsom salt bath, which is magnesium sulfate, they'll reabsorb all those toxins and toxicants. So they need to rinse off. Those baths are a great way for kids to detox. Sweating. Are kids exercising? Do they even sweat anymore? Do children even run? They're all in front of their devices. So children need to run and actually sweat. And that's a great way to detox. I have a sauna. I probably should sweat more, but I do sweat in a sauna. And that is a great way to do it. I'm not recommending putting your 4-year-old in a sauna, folks. Get them running and sweating. That's what I'm saying. So all these things can be used. Now, last but not least, and what I'm focusing on in the next book, is homeopathy. You can use homeopathic remedies. So if your teen says, gosh, mom, my mind is racing. I have a test tomorrow. I just can't turn my brain off. There is a remedy called Coffea cruda, 30C. And I try to teach parents how to use these homeopathic remedies, and you can give your kid a dose of 30C Coffea cruda to quiet their mind. So there, sometimes you need interventions. You've done all those things and your kid is still like this, wired, because they have a test or whatever's going on. You can use some of these things. You can use homeopathic valerian, for example. So teaching homeopathy is one of the tools I use for parents to become familiar with this technique. Because remember, whatever the FDA goes after is probably spot on. So FDA has gone after homeopathy so many times that we want to include it in your tool chest. I hope I answered your question. I was kind of on a soapbox there. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I just really wanted to make sure that they heard. I know 8 to 10 hours, that's healthy. You know, teenagers will sleep more, especially if they're going through puberty. But to know the whole like melatonin cycle and your circadian rhythm and those things, they matter for starting over, for the reboot kind of a thing.
And I'm glad you said the word melatonin. I forgot to mention that EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies from your devices, from 4G, 5G, whatever G is outside your window, will decrease melatonin. It has been shown that EMFs will decrease melatonin, and so devices also will decrease melatonin. If you don't have enough microbes also make melatonin, not to mention some of your calming neurotransmitters like serotonin. 80% of the calming neurotransmitter serotonin is made by your microbes. So if your microbes are out of balance because you're eating glyphosate-based herbicides, Roundup, which is an antibiotic, by the way, you will not have enough and your microbes will be out of balance. So again, this is why you have to eat so clean, so you have enough microbes, so the microbes can make neurotransmitters, so those neurotransmitters like serotonin, the calming one, could help you sleep. We are a biologic system, not a series of body parts, and they all work in concert. But you can use melatonin to reset your kid's clock, but I don't usually recommend it for more than 2 weeks. And melatonin is a hot topic now in the COVID world. It's an immune function a hormone as well. So, but I would rather people try the other things first, but you can also try melatonin.
I am loving this conversation. And by the way, in my household, the homeopathy is a go-to. Even my daughter herself, when something's going on, even when she trips or something, she goes right to the homeopathic cabinet to get her remedy, which is tremendous. And when it comes to anaphylactic reactions, I'm going to be honest with you, there's times that the conventional has not worked in itself to help us get out of a really, really scary anaphylactic reaction. And when we utilize homeopathic apis, histaminium, and acid cabrolacum, boy, it helps. You know, it's kind of like she needs it all, and that support and mitigation and that balance. So it's a miracle and a lifesaver for us and our family. Now, I wanted to mention one more thing, sorry, and I do have a question that I'm dying to ask as well, but I thought it's important to note, especially because we have a viewer who mentioned something about probiotics, and I learned the hard way, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Michelle Perro, or the significance of this, but one of the things is that arsenic is found in rice products, including those that are organic. And there's so many things that have rice products in it, including what I found out the hard way, probiotics as well. So, you know, just a heads up for people to be aware about, because I wasn't before. And like I said, I learned the hard way. So just something to note there in regards to that. And again, you can correct me on the significance of that. And my question, though, unrelated to all of that, is related to mask. One of the things that I think is so heartbreaking is whenever I see a child wearing a mask and the impact mentally, physically, and to the microbiome and what that's doing. If you could please talk about that, that would be tremendous.
Yeah, Nadir, these are great comments that you made, a lot to unpack. I'm not sure which one to go first because you have a lot there, but I'll work my way back. We'll start with the mask issue because I don't believe in masking children. There are problems with the mask. So the first thing is those surgical masks have titanium dioxide in them. Titanium is a metal that we should not be breathing in. If the masks are also synthetic, those little polymers from the surgical mask, the blue and white ones, everyone knows them by now. We all know them. Those have been found in lung biopsies. Those are not benign, and they can also stimulate immune reaction, and you get inflammation. And they've been found in your body. Kids should not be breathing in. Within 4 hours of wearing a mask, they will be colonized by, I think the last study showed 11 organisms. So you're breathing in all these toxic organisms all day long. Another problem, just inhaling microbes, not a good thing. Another study showed they decrease oxygenation levels when you're in mask all day, increase carbon dioxide, makes you sleepy as well as sick, not a good thing. And last but not least, children learn by looking at facial cues. So, and not getting exposed to these viruses, like we started at the beginning of this hour, is we don't make an immune response to all the viruses we're seeing now: RSV, adeno, parainfluenza, influenza, etc. So masks just need to go. They were never a good idea, should have never been used in children. Children are not in the surgical suite doing an operation. They don't need a mask on. So take those masks off those kids immediately, and you will be doing your child a favor. And please remember that small children do not transmit COVID to adults. Children are not little vectors. There's this idea, let's just get rid of that. I know we're not on COVID and all that right now, but children are not vectors of COVID, especially small children. It goes the other way. And we have good data on that, if we can actually find good data these days, because science has been corrupted. But let's just assume that we have good data on that for now. And so children are not killing grandma. That has been another media myth. So for all those reasons, dump the mask. Aside, did I answer that question? We covered that one?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what else did you ask me? Because I got so sidetracked with the mask frenzy. I'm just so crazed
In
about
regards
that.
to the significance of the arsenic in certain foods and so forth. And I'm Latina, so we put arrocito with everything, you know, so I, as well on top of that. But I know it's hidden in so many.
Arsenic made me crazy because it was an organic baby food. So it's an organic rice. It's more in brown than white rice because it's in the bran layer. So if you're going to eat rice, I tell people eat white over brown. Like, that's not a great idea. Minimize eating rice, because remember, arsenic was one of the key pesticides used, and so much soil is contaminated with arsenic, especially in the southeast. But here in the south part of California too, we shouldn't be a rice growing state. By the way, we don't have the right climate for it, but we grow rice in California. But so arsenic is a problem. You can do a hair test through your practitioner and see which heavy metals, or even the Detox Project, you can order it yourself. And I know they're expensive, but the Detox Project, Henry Rowland's project, will do, through his project, you can test hair for various pesticides and actually see what's in your child's hair. And I love hair testing, not just for pesticides, but for heavy metals as well. And that is one of the tools in my tool chest. And I can get a sense of how exposed they are. Remember, testing are adjuncts. The most important thing is how your child's clinical state is the most important thing. I do testing just for adjunctive information. So I would say making your own food, not overloading the diet with too much rice products, avoiding those rice capsules. When you see them, you'll see rice bran capsules and everything. And even for my own chickens, I use rice hay. It's really hard to find hay that's not rice in my area. And I'm thinking, oh, my chickens have too much arsenic. So we do the best we can, but not buying those baby foods, making your own. That's the key, is make your own baby food. You make dinner and you just take off for the baby, and you have to blend it up and just don't add spices. They can really eat whatever you're eating at a certain age, but you just want to do one new food at a time. That's all.
Okay, I have three things. Now it's my turn and we're running out of time. First thing I want to talk about, we haven't talked about, is Teflon and all those ghastly things in people's kitchens. It really stresses me out. And I used to be that person when I see people frying an egg with that plastic thing that's leaching into your food and you. So there's that. Watch your kitchen. Then I want to talk about how young parents these days think it's absolutely normal for their child or baby not to poop for a week. Apparently that's normal, or have diarrhea the whole time because, oh, that's how he is. He just has diarrhea. That's not normal. So we need to talk about normal bowels. Maybe we don't have time for that, but just make that point. And then I want to talk about, it's okay to be sick, for your children to be sick. When I was at school and it was September, it was back to school, and a message would go out to the parents: please bring your children in with tissues because we don't want any of this going on their school uniform. Because it's normal. You stayed at home if you had a temperature or you were throwing up, but everybody went to school with a cold and a packet of tissues. What's happened? And can we reassure our young parents, please, that it's okay to have a snotty nose and not feel, have a cold. Colds are normal.
Yes. Yeah. Spot on. Right on. Let's start with the PFOA. Let's start with the nasty Teflon. Nasty Teflon, get rid of it. Get rid of nasty Teflon. It has forever chemicals, these PFOAs. That was a health disaster. West Virginia, where they made this stuff. If you saw the movie Dark Waters, which with Mark Ruffalo, is a great movie. There's also a documentary about what happened there. Poisoned that entire area. If you eat Teflon, you have that forever chemical. It's a reproductive carcinogen, reproductive disruptive carcinogen, all kinds of bad stuff from PFOA, from those forever chemicals. They never go away. So dump the Teflon. Use I'm looking at it all this time. I've just changed my cookware again because I'm so concerned with cookware. I've just upgraded again to one that doesn't leach. And I've spent lots of money on cookware because of this very issue. I keep looking. I've just re-looked at it again. It's like, how many times do I have to look at this problem? So anyway, I use now a cookware with titanium as the metal. And I dumped all the other ones, even the copper ones. Ceramic leaches. Iron can leach because it's not pure iron. They put other heavy metals in your iron cookware. So cookware is an issue. And maybe we'll come back and do a show just on cookware because that's big. So you talked about that, the Teflon. So then we also talked about, Polly, you also mentioned the snotty noses. I think parents have forgotten how to treat viral illnesses during COVID, like they forgot, like their brains went blank. And yes, you can, if you have a cold without a fever, your kid go to school. We don't stop kids with colds because kids would never go to school. Remember, in the first year of life, kids have 8 to 10 colds. There are so many rhinoviruses and coronaviruses and other viruses that give kids colds. And there are maybe 300 and some odd rhinoviruses, lots of them. So yes, we used to donate tissues to schools. So teachers on their wish list would say, parents, please bring in tissues. And so they can have snotty noses, but just remember, they need to be able to clear them up. And sometimes it looks like they have one long snotty nose when they're little because they've had cold after cold after cold. So if they're in preschool or daycare, and if they have siblings, the littlest ones will have colds all year, it seems, all winter. And that, as long as they're eating well, thriving well, they can clear them, it's okay. And I use homeopathy for those colds. Homeopathy will help the child heal quicker. The child will go through the illness quicker. And when you use your remedies, your homeopathic home kit, as symptoms change, you change the remedy. The kid might first have the irritability, and then they may have a clear nose. That's allium cepa. Then it's a green goopy yellow nose. That's Callium bichromicum. And then they have a little cough, and that may be Hepar sulfuris. So one illness, I've used 4 remedies. And last but not least, pooping. Polly, you talked about pooping is my favorite conversation. And one of my missions in life, when I'd done a lot of acute care and urgent care, was to get children off Miralax, polyethylene glycol. I saw an epidemic. Every kid who came into the urgent care for whatever reason, a stubbed toe, a nosebleed, they were on Miralax. 1/3 of visits to our people here and doctors here in the US have to do with constipation, and abdominal pain is the #1 cause of pain in children. So once kids are potty trained, parents often do not know what's happening in the potty because kids close the door. So you have to go look in the potty. And if there are these hard balls of rabbit poo or pellets, that is not normal. And that, for whatever reason, your child is not getting enough fiber, enough water. It could be stress-induced or chemicals or all 4. So you've got to get your kid pooping instead of good poop hygiene. There's nothing I can do to help a kid if they're not pooping. Pooping is #1. So what I do to get kids pooping, I change their diet, lots of water. And I've had babies that I've added lots of prunes. Prunes are still good. If you stew those prunes, organic prunes, super, super healthy. Prunes are your friend.
Michelle, Dr. we call it poo stew in our house. My children will say to me, Mummy, can you make some poo stew? And it's basically prunes, apricots, and figs stewed and boiled up. There you go, people. Good Monday morning chat.
Thank you, Dr. Polly. I mean, I love talking poop. I'm called Dr. Poopy Diaper is my favorite name. So yes, give them those foods. I've had formula-fed babies whose moms couldn't nurse for whatever reason, and formula-fed babies will often have problems doing poo. And I've added the prune juice made from stewed prunes directly into the formula to get kids pooping. So they have to poop. And you, in theory, we should be pooping after each meal. That your kid should be having 2 to 3 poops a day. And they should be looking, once they're after infancy, they should be brown, loggish, float, sink. It's called the Bristol stool scale. We actually scale them, but they should be brown once they're past infancy stage. And they shouldn't be green. They should not be mucusy. They shouldn't smell bad. And they shouldn't have undigested food in them unless your kid just ate like a whole pint of blueberries, and then you might see blueberries in there, or seeds. Sometimes those are hard to digest, or kids aren't chewing. Remember your parents telling you to chew all those times at the dinner table? Get your kid chewing again. So we get them chewing, we get them drinking, we give them these fiber-rich diets, and we get them pooping. That's the 101, and everybody can do that at home.
That's great. That's going to be new things to look for around this house with my kids. They're going to be mortified.
Well, this is where I love the iPhone. Especially during Zoom school, like the past couple of years, I've been on Zoom a lot. Every parent has sent me a photo shot of their kid's poop. I want pictures, and I want to see what that poop looks like in the diaper. I want to see it in the potty. And I'm like, whoa, that is not okay. Let's talk about that. So you will send me pictures of the poop and pictures of your pantry, because everybody tells me they eat organic. And then I see photos of their pantry or their spice rack, and I'm saying, hold on. Or that beer your husband just consumed, that is not only just gluten, it's full of pesticides. Beer has a lot of lots of pesticides in it.
Are you hearing that, Jonathan, Tommy? Okay, carry on.
I was going to say, my husband's a whole different story. It's just me and the kids over here. But last year, Dr. Perro, I saw that you created the Global Children's Environmental Health Bill of Rights and a group that goes along with that. And the reason I'm interested in that is because I'm so infuriated that if we know this, we know that the powers that be know this, and this is allowed to take place. How do we fight this, and how do we win for better conditions going forward?
Yes.
Because it just seems so overwhelming that nobody knows how to take that first step, because it just keeps unraveling.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Amanda. Thank you for that acknowledgement. So I was shocked during COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID, that we do not love our children. If we did love our children, we would not be doing what we've done, and they are under assault. So I believe they need a Bill of Rights, which I outlined, and people can find it. We can tell you how to get it, to protect our kids. We are not protecting our kids. Until government agencies step up, which I'm not so sure that will ever happen, we at home have to take charge. And it seems to me that moms are doing this, because when a mom protects her child, watch out, it's a force of nature. The mother bear is aroused. I would have taken somebody's eye out over my kids, I swear, if they messed with them when mine were little. I was ferocious with my own. I remember hovering outside of public bathrooms when my kids went to the bathroom, just waiting for a predator, don't even think about it. I was that gal, but okay. But they're all grown up now. I don't have to do that. Well, I still do it. That's not true. But anyway, so moms, we're being called to protect our children, and it's starting at home, because governments are not doing it. I could tell you schools in California are not doing it. I'll speak for my own fine state of California. My friends in North and Canada, I'm not sure you're doing it. So we need to do it at home. And the way we do it is with our purses, because women spend 85% of the household budget. So guess who has the power? I can tell you my house, I spend all the money. I bought all the stuff for the kids. That was me. Their shoes, their haircuts, their food, right here. So you've got the money, you've got the power. Economic tipping point. We will dictate through our money, through our policies, through our educational choices, through our votes. We're not talking politics, through our votes. Well, I mentioned it. And if you have to homeschool, then you have to homeschool, because I'm not just sure that kids are protected even in the school. So it is up to us, families, moms, to protect our children from these assaults. And I'm hoping that we create this Bill of Rights to protect globally children, not just American children, global children. We protect our kids, because in my opinion right now, America does not love her children. So I say we can, and we do, solutions-based. We start with our home. We put our tentacles into our schools, our local communities in voting, state governments, wherever you are, and then the big political picture. We change at home, we change our school, we change policy. And that's how we do it, by networking like this. And we say no more. Gals, that means no more. We're solutions based, we're proactive, and we start at home.
All right. Well, I don't know who was next for a question, but never mind. I think it was Sarah. Okay. So, well, look, let's see if we can get everything up on screen so people know where to follow you, because we haven't got much longer. So you've got one book that's this: What's Making Our Children Sick.
Yep.
Where can people get that book?
Oh, they can buy Chelsea Green. That was the publisher. Thrift Books, if you want to buy a used copy. I stay away from other big buying book places, although I must admit I buy an occasional book there that I can't find elsewhere. I'm not even saying the name. But Chelsea Green is a good place. And the new book will be coming out at the end. I'm going to self-publish it, and I'm making it into a manual. And I'm going to be putting up some free chapters on some of my websites, where I'm at gmoscience.org is one of my websites, focuses GMOs and pesticides. But I'm a happy advisor on Regeneration Health International. We are a great group of folks. Stephanie Senef's on there, Andre Liu and others, Alex Bademeyer. And we are focused on food as medicine, and we're linked to Regeneration International, bridging this relationship between the food as medicine, going from pharma to farm, and how we regain the terrain and regenerative solutions to health and our food, our soil, our environment, climate change, etc. That's how we're doing it. And I have my own website, drmichelleperro.com. And the reason why I promote that is I have lots of free info, videos, and stuff for folks. And I try to put all the information out there for busy parents, make it free and accessible when I can. And I'm creating a Substack soon, because I think Substack's the way to go. I hate social media for so many reasons, just not into it. And that would be another conversation. So I'm saying Substack.
So, well, I'm really excited about that book. What's, the positive book. There's the What's Making Our Children Sick, which obviously we all need to read. But I would like to send new parents your next book.
Yes.
So now, as soon as that's out, will you let us know, and we'll get you back on Tea Time and discuss that?
Yes, I will. And I'm going to teach parents how to use homeopathy. It's easy. It's straightforward. It saved my own kids, saved my son. It saved me. I'm a big fan. It's affordable, non-toxic, no side effects. I mean, how can you beat that? $7, you can treat an illness. How can you go wrong?
I was brought up on homeopathy and stinging nettle soup. It was gross. I had no friends would come round to our house. I was actually horrified by it. Anyway, but that's that. Okay, so Dr. Michelle Perro, this has been such a fun show, and I know that our viewers are loving it, because Sawyer's posting the comments there. So we do need to hear more from you, but we thank you for all you're doing for our children and alerting us to all these things. It's so deceptive, this world, for the young parent. I feel so, it was bad enough in our day with the vaccines and stuff, but now it's just, I feel so bad for them because it's coming from everywhere. It's so evil.
And I couldn't agree more. And so there's, discerning truth, because we're talking about truth and integrity. I'm just going to light and vibrating really high. That's my whole focus right now, is about the high vibrational energy. And when we're in light, peace, and love, we vibrate higher. And I tell parents, go to Children's Health Defense, watch these shows, read what you guys are doing. That's where I got 600 requests for help after I did a show with Dr. Mercola. I thought, oh my God, I just finished answering the last one yesterday. I went through 600 extra emails than my own emails. And I send so many people to you, Dr. Mercola, just a few sites. Parents are busy. So this is what we try to do, is how can we give the real deal information? And I think you guys are doing it. Thank you.
All right, just before we go, Sarah's got a problem. Her son, I saw him in, actually we bumped into each other in the supermarket last night. He has a painful inner ear infection, and the doctor obviously wants to give him antibiotics. Sarah's beside herself. And that's her question. I don't know why. I think she's muted. I don't know. There's your question. We haven't got long. So could you answer that, please?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if the garlic mullein ear drops didn't do the trick, and then I have recommended different remedies. If it's a right ear infection, it's often lycopodium. Left ear, sulfur 30C. Try that 3 times a day and see if that works. A little bit of craniosacral work, because he might have fluid in the ear. and then you need to get that drained. So see somebody who knows craniosacral osteopathy, and they can open up that eustachian tube and let the ear drain. Sleeping propped up will also help. And I'm a big fan of curcumin. Give them some probiotics. And if it's a fluid collection that just won't resolve and it's a painful ear from fluid, silica, SILICA 30C 3 times a day for a few days will also help for the ear infection. Sidedness matters when treating ear infections homeopathically. Which side? And if that didn't answer your question, you get to email me and I will email you some more stuff to do.
Yeah, we're going to get our boy Jace better and tell him that Dr. Perro says off all electronical equipment. And watch a nice film. Right, okay, everybody, listen, Dr. Michelle Perro, you are an amazing person. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for being on this show. You're just our kind of person. I hope we have more tea times like this. It's so much fun. To those listening, stand firm, do not settle, and pray big. We do not need to settle in this day and age. Going into 2023, we have got some really exciting, uplifting stuff happening. We are forming together as one big army, and we are winning. So, and we are, by the way, if you're getting to a state about family situations over Christmas or your holiday period, whatever you call it over here in America, do not panic. We've got you covered on CHD TV. So we're working on that right now. You will not be alone. Okay, stay tuned, because at 2:30 Eastern Time, 11:30 Pacific Time, Dawn Richardson's Advocacy Lifeline will discuss the media's manipulated coverage of vaccine legislation and more. So our wonderful Dawn, just to remind you all that Dawn doesn't get paid a thing. Not one of our hosts get paid a thing on CHD TV. They all do it for free, their own time. So if you're in the chat, do shower our hosts with love, because it means so much, and especially now that the chat stays up and they go back and see that you love them and stuff. It really makes a big difference. So thank you. Okay, we'll be back tea time next week. We have Zen Honeycutt next week, and so excited about that. So we'll talk more about glyphosate and various other things, and a new film that's coming out. So there is that. Otherwise, big love from us all, and we will see you next week. Thank you, Dr. Perro. Thank you, Amanda, Nadara, and Sarah. Big love from us all. See you next week.
Bye.